Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. I want you to think about your routine this morning. You probably woke up, hit snooze once, maybe twice, and stumbled into the kitchen to grab something fast, right? We live in an era where breakfast is basically a pit stop. It's totally built around our busy schedules, the commute, and just getting out the door as fast as humanly possible. But what happens when we completely erase all of that modern context? Let's rewind the clock exactly 200 years. We're going back to a time when your first meal wasn't just about convenience. It was a strict, absolute requirement just to make it to sundown.
Seriously, imagine waking up in the 1820s and discovering that all the quick, easy staples you rely on every day simply do not exist. There are no brightly colored boxes of cereal sitting in the pantry waiting for a splash of cold milk. No drive-through coffee shop on the corner to grab a pastry in under 3 minutes. There isn't even a toaster. So, if you're the kind of person who can't function before a morning latte, or you absolutely need a microwave to survive, well, 1824 would have been a really, really rough year for you. 2 centuries ago, just the mere act of getting a meal ready in the morning took massive effort and preparation. Everything had to be made from scratch, and more importantly, it had to sustain you.
So, without the fancy appliances and the prepackaged goods, what actually filled that empty space on the breakfast table? It's a pretty simple question, but the answer gives us an incredible window into the daily struggles and realities of people living 2 centuries ago. You see, breakfast back then wasn't about preference at all. It was about necessity. And as we're going to see, what you ate varied wildly depending on a few massive defining factors in your life.
And the answer might actually surprise you, because the whole concept of a standard, universal breakfast just didn't exist yet. 200 years ago, the food on your table depended entirely on 2 things: your geography and your wealth. Think about it. Today, a billionaire and a minimum wage worker might actually eat the exact same brand of cereal for breakfast. But back then, no way. There was a rigid, undeniable divide. Where you settled and how much money you had in your pocket dictated every single bite you took to start your day. The morning menus were sharply divided along socioeconomic lines. When we break the population down into 3 main groups, farmers, the wealthy, and the poor, the contrast is absolutely striking. You have farmers eating heavy meats and stews, the wealthy enjoying these delicate baked goods and imported drinks, and the poor surviving on the absolute most basic, coarse grains available. It's like looking at 3 completely different worlds, all functioning at the exact same time in history, and entirely defined by what they ate at the break of dawn. So let's break down exactly what was on the plate for each of these groups.
Let's start with the American farmer. For them, breakfast was actually the biggest meal of the day. Now, they started with familiar items, things like fresh bread, butter, eggs, porridge, and smoked bacon. But then, things take a pretty dramatic turn. Imagine waking up at the crack of dawn and immediately sitting down to last night's leftovers, a heavy bowl of beef stew, or a massive plate of cold roast. To our modern stomachs, that sounds incredibly heavy, right? Almost like a dense dinner menu. But for the farmer, it was an absolute requirement just to get their day started. Now we see some stark extremes when we look at the other classes. Affluent tables were loaded with fresh milk, cheese, fruit, hot biscuits, pancakes, and sweet preserves. They even enjoyed hot beverages like imported coffee and tea. It sounds much like a lovely, leisurely modern brunch, right? But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, if you were poor, you survived on coarse bread, oatmeal, or cornmeal mush. Maybe, just maybe, with a touch of molasses if you were lucky. No fresh fruits, no fancy pastries, just simple, dense grains meant to fill the stomach as cheaply as humanly possible.
So, the really crucial point here is why they ate these incredibly heavy meals, especially the farmers. And it all comes down to one word: thousands. People back then burned thousands of calories daily through grueling physical labor. This wasn't a society sitting at desks typing on keyboards for 8 hours a day. The daily grind involved intense, continuous manual labor from sunrise to sunset. We're talking chopping wood, plowing fields by hand, hauling materials, and maintaining homesteads. When your body is operating like a human engine for that level of physical exertion, food stops being about taste. It becomes pure, unadulterated fuel. You literally had to load up on dense, high-calorie foods just to make sure your body didn't completely give out halfway through the morning.
A light modern bowl of cereal simply wouldn't have cut it. If a 19th century farmer ate a standard bowl of cornflakes with skim milk, they would have burned through those calories before even finishing their morning chores. The intense caloric deficit of their daily lives demanded these massive meals. Thick porridges, hearty stews, and cold meats were engineered by necessity to stick to their ribs and provide a slow, steady release of energy throughout hours of backbreaking work. It wasn't gluttony at all. It was just biological economics.
And this highlights a massive historical shift. Today, we optimize for speed. We chug meal replacement shakes or grab a quick granola bar because our primary obstacle in the morning is just a lack of time. But 200 years ago, the primary obstacle was physical survival. As our labor became less physically demanding over the years, thanks to industrialization and technology, our breakfasts literally shrank to match our new sedentary lifestyles.
As we wrap up this explainer, it all really boils down to this. 200 years ago, it was a meal built for survival. It just goes to show how history turns our modern assumptions about mundane routines completely upside down. We tend to think of history as just a boring series of dates and wars. But it's really about how ordinary people lived every single day. The breakfast table is actually a mirror. It perfectly reflects the raw economic and physical realities of the time.
Which brings us to you. What's the strangest or maybe the heaviest breakfast you've ever eaten to start your day? Let us know your answer in the comments below. And hey, if you love uncovering the fascinating truths hidden in our everyday routines, make sure to subscribe to Untold Story for more incredible explainers like this one. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we will see you next time.